Ito ang Agila Balita, sumasa inyo mula sa Washington, D.C. Ako si Ace Ramirez. Narito ang paglalagom kung paanong umabot ang coronavirus COVID-19 sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo na ngayon dahilan ng takot at pagkabahala ng mga tao sa maraming bansa. Ayon sa World Health Organization noong Disyembre 31, 2019, isang pneumonia dulot ng di matukoy na dahilan ay nasumpungan sa Wuhan, China at naunang naiulat sa tanggapan ng WHO doon. Noong Enero 30, 2020, ang outbreak ay idineklarang public health emergency of international concern. Humingi ng $675 million ang international community upang maingatan ang mga estado na mahina ang sistemang pangkalusugan bilang bahagi ng Strategic Preparedness and Response Plan. Pebrero 11, 2020, noong ipinahayag ng WHO ang opisyal na pangalan ng sakit ng bagong coronavirus. Tawag nga ay COVID-19. Sa isang media briefing tungkol sa COVID-19, sinabi ng Direktor General ng WHO na si Tedros Adhanom na pinag-aralan ng WHO ang outbreak na ito 24 oras araw-araw at tunay namang nababahala sa nakagugulat na antas ng pagkalat at paglala nito at sa nakagugulat na antas ng kawalang aksyon. Kung kaya't gumawa kami ng tasa na ang COVID-19 ay maaaring uriing pandemic. Ayon kay Adhanom, ang salitang pandemic ay hindi sapat gamitin na basta-basta at walang ingat. Ito ay isang salita na kung gagamitin sa maling paraan ay maaaring magdulot ng walang batayang takot o ng hindi makatarungang pagtanggap na tapos na ang laban, na maaaring magdulot ng hindi kinakailangang paghihirap at pagkamatay. Anya, ang pagtawag sa sitwasyon na pandemic ay hindi nagbabago sa pagsusuring ng WHO sa panganib na maaaring dalhin ang virus na ito. Hindi nito binabago ang ginagawa ng WHO at hindi nito binabago ang mga hakbang na dapat gawin ng mga bansa. Dagdag ni Adhanom, hindi pa tayo nakakakita bago nito ng pandemic na dulot ng coronavirus. Ito ang kauna-unahang pandemic na dulot ng coronavirus at hindi pa rin tayo nakakakita bago nito ng pandemic na maaari namang kontrolin. Sa layuning mapakalma at ang pagkabahala ng iba na tila mas mabilis ang pagkalat kaysa sa COVID-19, narito ang ilang impormasyon kung paanong nakaapekto ang virus na ito sa mga komunidad, kung paano natin mapangangalagaan ang ating mga sarili laban dito, at kung bakit hindi natin dapat hayaang mangibabaw ang takot sa ating mga buhay. Ibabahagi namin sa inyo ngayon ang isang panayam sa isang internal medicine physician at dating virologist na si Dr. Amorsolo Sugitan Jr. Ipapaliwanag niya sa atin sa simpleng paraan ang mga bagay na dapat nating malaman tungkol sa coronavirus, COVID-19.
So, COVID-19 is now, what it actually stands for is Coronavirus Disease 2019. The virus that causes COVID-19, as we are all familiar with, is called a coronavirus. So coronaviruses represent a group of viruses that have been discovered in the 1960s. And these viruses are known to infect both humans and animals. And some animals can transmit these coronaviruses to humans. So some forms of common cold are caused by coronaviruses. So we know of at least 4 of these coronaviruses that are causing the common cold. But it has garnered special attention. Probably you are familiar with the SARS coronavirus epidemic that occurred in about, 2003, in the early 2000s. And that one actually infected about 8,100 people worldwide. And among those that were infected, about 700 plus people actually died. And then in 2012, another coronavirus broke out, and it's called the MERS-CoV. It's the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. And at that time, it was only confined to the Arabian Peninsula mainly. And for that particular virus, about close to 2,600 people got infected. And out of those, about 30% or so actually also perished.
Okay.
So they're garnering special attention because of all of these outbreaks that come and go.
Okay.
And the COVID-19 virus is also one of these group of viruses.
Maaaring tanungin ng iba kung gaano ba kalala ang COVID-19 kung ihahambing sa mga naunang sakit na dulot ng coronavirus. Ayon kay Dr. Sugitan, maaga pa namang upang malaman ito dahil sa maraming hindi pa natutuklasan kung paanong gumagalaw ang virus na ito.
It's hard to tell because there's still so many things that we don't know yet about COVID-19. But in terms of the number of people that is already affected or infected, it looks like it is actually more easily spread.
Okay.
In terms of the number of people who also get sick,
Okay.
it looks like it's also on its way there.
Okay.
But there's just a lot of unknowns with this particular virus that it's too early to say
Okay.
how it will actually behave. So, but we can just go and look past the other viruses and learn from what they have to teach us.
Sa pagharap sa walang kaalaman tungkol sa COVID-19, tinanong natin, dahilan ba ito upang mabahala at mataranta? Ayon kay Dr. Sugitan, ang walang kaalaman ay nagdudulot ng takot, kung kaya't ang alamin ang impormasyon at maging aral tungkol sa virus na ito ay magsisilbing pananggalang laban dito.
I think people tend to be fearful of what they don't know.
Okay.
So that's probably the reaction that we're getting, all of these fears, all of this hysteria about the virus is that it's new. As the name implies, it's novel, right? Okay. So we don't know exactly how this came to be, although we have some ideas. And right now, there seems to be no treatment for it yet. There's no vaccine yet. And somehow, sometimes the media plays a role in, making a hype out of all of this. But for us just to be able to be informed and be educated about what this virus actually does and what it doesn't, I think that that's the number one thing that you can do to prevent or to fight against fear. So ignorance breeds fear. So the more that you actually shed light and the more that you know about it, then...
Ang mga sintomas ng coronavirus COVID-19 ay naihahambing makailang beses sa influenza virus. Ani Dr. Sugitan, ang dalawang ito ay nagpapakita ng tila magkaparehong mga kaso. At sa puntong ito, mahalagang magpabakuna ang mga tao laban sa flu dahil mas malaki ang posibilidad na ma-infect nito.
So with the presentation, if you get infected with the flu viruses, then these are the seasonal flu viruses that we often get, the H1N1, the H3N2, the influenza A, influenza B. So the presentation of the cases when they investigated the first few cases of those infected in Wuhan with a COVID-19 virus, they presented almost all of them have fever.
Okay.
And then about 75% have coughs. Then they also have shortness of breath. And they also have muscle aches. And if you can, as you can tell, all of these are very similar to flu. So it's quite indistinguishable clinically.
Okay.
If you look at the symptoms that these people, infected people have, it's very hard, very difficult to tell whether they get infected by the flu or the coronavirus.
Okay.
So that's why they were saying, so a lot of experts are saying that we should be more mindful and we should be, at least for now, really be more conscious about our vaccination status against the flu, because that's something that we are more likely to get, to contract or actually to be infected with, rather than the COVID-19.
Sa ngayon, nag-uunahan ng mga laboratorio sa pagdevelop ng bakuna laban sa COVID-19. Ayon kay Dr. Sugitan, na dating virologist, masalimuot ang proseso ng pagdevelop nito at maaaring kumain ng maraming buwan bago makadevelop ng ligtas at epektibong bakuna.
I think that the help that the U.S. government has extended to all of the pharmaceutical companies and their collaboration with them is going to have a big boost in terms of the timeline of vaccine production. But typically, when you do have a vaccine, you should be able to manufacture it on a large scale. So sometimes those technical things are easier to accomplish, but what hampers the development of the vaccine is how are we going to demonstrate that it's safe and that it's effective. And we usually test this first in animal models. And when you give a vaccine, you have to play with the dosing. So you have to find the right dosage that will give you an idea how protective it might be. And when you immunize animals, you have to let them build their own immunity. So it takes time. So probably about 1 month or 2 months. And you have to decide how many doses do you have to administer. 1 dose versus 2 doses, and how far apart from each other should they be. And once you have demonstrated that it's actually safe, how effective is it? So you should be able to challenge them with what we call wild-type virus, the actual virus that's circulating, the COVID-19. And if these animals demonstrate that they can actually resist getting infected, or if they do get infected, that they can resolve their infections quickly, then that's a good sign. But all of these sometimes, so these are in animal models, it does not necessarily always translate that what happens in animal models will also be what is going to be reflected in humans. So there might be some nuances on how we are going to react on it. But the basic limitations in terms of the timeline is just making sure that we demonstrate that it is safe and that it is effective if we are going to vaccinate a lot of people. We have to make sure that those 2 particular criteria are met. So it usually takes, from their projections, it's about 12 months to 18 months. So we have to understand that vaccine development or production of vaccine, it occurs in several phases. And even the testing of the vaccine, once it's made, also undergoes through these phases. One of the challenges for this particular coronavirus vaccine is that while they were able to probably identify a particular target that the vaccine should be able to block, or the immunity that it will generate will be able to block, we can make those proteins, we can make them to be a little bit immunogenic, or it can be eliciting a good immune response. But we have to make sure that they are safe and that they are effective.
Ang pagkalat ng takot at pagkabahala dulot ng pandemic na ito ay maaaring mapakalma kung sisikapin ng tao na maging impormado sa mga tamang detalye tungkol sa sitwasyon.
By explaining the process, it seems like it's tedious and it's going to take a while. The UN warns of a fear pandemic because people, they're waiting for how to protect themselves. Why do you think this should be addressed as aggressively as how we are addressing the virus?
Yes, because right now, this fear that you're describing, there has been some recent reports that Asian Americans are unjustifiably being attacked. Some of them, like in New York, there was a lady who was attacked just because she was wearing a mask. And probably the person who attacked her was thinking that she might be spreading the coronavirus just because of her ancestry. And we have to make sure that we also tell people that this is really not the way that the virus will be. The virus does not discriminate who it's going to infect. And if you don't have any of those risk factors, like if you haven't been to the countries where there's still a widespread outbreak of this virus, Iran, China, of course, South Korea, Italy, then you should be able to be, the risk is really low. So we should not target a particular ethnic group or even Asians because that is unfounded fear. So in terms of fear, we already discussed about if you really don't know what it is, then you really will be fearful of it. And the way to just think about how to approach this is just like any respiratory virus. Okay, you always have to have good hand washing precautions. So make sure that your hands are clean. Make sure that if you have not washed your hands, do not touch your face, Do not touch your eyes, your mouth, or your nose. So some common sense practices like that. Avoid people who might be sick, or if you are the sick one, take extra precaution not to spread it by wearing a mask, for example, so that you can contain whatever it is and confine it. Okay, isolate yourself if you can. And you can always go and disinfect the surfaces that are typically used in your home. Probably right now, the phones, your phone, because your phone can just be placed on a surface that is not clean, and then when you're taking a call, you might answer it, and it's actually near your mouth, near, touching your cheek. So all of these things add up. So those are the precautions that you would do anyway, if it's just the flu or if it's just a common cold. And just taking the same kind of precautions should be the right thing to do in approaching the coronavirus.
Sa pagkalat ng virus na ito, mas marami ang naitatalang nakarecover kumpara sa mga nasasawi. Subalit marami sa mga hindi nakaliligtas dito ay ang mga may edad na, mga may chronic respiratory illness, at yaong mga mababa na ang resistensya bago pa man nahawa.
It's usually the elderly, just like in the flu. Most of the people who are typically affected severely are infants, the elderly, and people with chronic conditions. People who have asthma, people who have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, people who have heart condition, people who actually their immune system is compromised, probably if they're having chemotherapy because they might have cancer, or if they have diabetes. So all of these are risk factors for them to come down. If they do get infected by something like this, then it will take them a little bit longer, or if they have the symptoms, it will be typically more severe because of these other factors that they have. But if you're typically, let's say a typical healthy person, a relatively young, they don't have to fear that much. I'm not saying that they will not be infected. Of course, there will always be an exception. But if they do get infected, the likelihood that it will just be presenting as a mild infection is higher. So that's why we take precautions when we have these relatives who are not too healthy to begin with. That we protect ourselves, that we have to be more cautious when we're around them, because if they do catch it, then the chances that they will have a more serious condition is greater than if we are the ones who actually get infected.
Sa layuning maprotektahan ang sarili laban sa virus, marami ang nagpasyang magsuot ng masks. Tinanong namin si Dr. Sigitan kung sino-sino ba talaga ang dapat na magsuot nito at kung gaano ka-epektibo ang pagsusuot ng mask kung ang pag-uusapan ay proteksyon.
I know that there has been some, panic buying of masks nowadays. So what the guidelines currently recommend is that only those who are infected, really, should be the ones wearing the mask. Because if you cough, if you sneeze, you're releasing thousands of droplets of secretions that might contain the virus. So it's not really to protect themselves, but to be able to be, containment of this particular secretion so that they cannot spread it to others. If you're relatively healthy, you wear a mask. What studies are saying is that if you will have to use the mask every 20 minutes, because once your mask gets a lot of moisture, so when you're breathing out, there's moisture in there. And in 20 minutes, this kinds of moisture already affects its ability to filter out some organisms. So it's not going to be useful anyway. So only those who are infected should wear it. And for people who are healthy, just make sure that we still follow all of those precautionary measures that I mentioned a while ago. And if you have to cough or if you have to sneeze and you use a tissue, make sure that you throw the tissue straight into the trash. Or if you have to cough and there's really no tissue lying around, always use the sleeve.
Ayon sa World Health Organization, ang publiko ay dapat na magsagawa ng mga hakbang upang mapangalagaan ang sarili laban sa COVID-19. Narito ang ilan. Madalas na paghuhugas ng kamay. Pananatili ng tinatawag na social distance o distansya sa pakikisalamuha. Iwasan hawakan ng mata, ilong at bibig. Magsanay ng respiratory hygiene. Humanap ng tulong mula sa doktor kung may lagnat, ubo at hirap sa paghinga. Manatiling impormado at sundin ang payo ng mga doktor. Narito ang ilan pang paraan upang ma-disinfect ang inyong paligid.
Washing with soap and water for at least 20 seconds is still the preferred way. Because if you just wash your hands vigorously, it's very effective, okay? If you have to use a sanitizer, make sure that the alcohol content is at least 60%, okay? So those will work towards decreasing the number of infectious particles on your hands. But it's also very important that we, as I mentioned a while ago, clean all of those surfaces that will typically get contaminated, even the doorknobs that we use. Make sure to clean those because a lot of people touch them, and if they're not really mindful of where their hands have been, so that is also a potential source of infection.
Ayon kay Dr. Sugitan, mahalagang magpabakuna laban sa flu, hindi dahil sa ito ay gamot sa coronavirus, kundi dahil ang flu ay isang sakit na nakakahawa.
Because there's still a lot of people who do not believe that they should get immunized with a flu vaccine every year. They have this myth of if they do get vaccinated with the flu, they will actually get the flu. So that's been a myth that all of the healthcare professionals are trying to combat, okay? But in this particular scenario, you have people who are or who must be protected, as I've mentioned, the elderly, pregnant women, and all of those who have those comorbid conditions. We should make a real effort to get them vaccinated because the chances are right now they will have been infected with the flu rather than with a COVID-19 virus.
Ani Dr. Sugitan, bagamat hindi namimili ang coronavirus kung sino ang binibiktima nito, ang pagpapanik ay hindi sagot. Ang maaaring gawin ng publiko ay tiyaking laging impormado. Tulad nga ng sinabi ng Direktor General ng World Health Organization na si Tedros Adhanom, hindi tayo napasa sa ilalim ng virus na ito. Naway ang pag-asa ang maging lunas laban sa takot, ang pagkakaisa ay maging lunas laban sa paninisi, ang ating humanidad ang maging lunas laban sa banta.
Just stay cool. Stay calm because this too will pass. Okay? If we just add on to the hysteria and all of this fear-mongering, we're not helping the situation. So just make sure that we remain vigilant and we remain updated on what health authorities always have to advise us to do because they have more expertise in these kinds of situations.
Yan ang Agila Balita para sa linggong ito. Samahan niyo kaming muli sa susunod na Lunes para sa isa na namang edisyon na puno ng impormasyon mula sa aming bureau sa buong mundo. Bisitahin ang aming website sa eaglenews.net at eaglenewslive.com. Sundan kami sa twitter.com/eaglenews at sa facebook.com/eaglenews. Salamat sa panonood. Ako si Ace Ramirez, 1 with 25.
Sumainyo ang mga balitang